Good morning. Good morning. My name is Kathleen Grancelli, and I'm the CEO at the YWCA of the Niagara Frontier. It is a pleasure to welcome you to the Early Childhood Center here at John Pound School. The Early Childhood Center, which supports the needs of 300 children from ages 2 to 5, is a collaboration with the YWCA, Lockport School District, and Buffalo Hearing and Speech. It is successful critical collaborations like this which make Lockport a great place to live and raise families. And today we will have some information regarding the health of our families from Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul. But before we begin, I would like to recognize some of our special guests. We have with us Mark Crocker, Town Supervisor, Town of Lockport, Dave Wolleben, the Deputy Mayor of the City of Lockport, the New York State Department of Health Commissioner, Dr. Edward Zucker, the Assistant Superintendent of Schools in Lockport, Lisa Schrader, representing the Board of Education of the Lockport School District, Marietta Schrader, Common Council members, Mark Devine and Rick Abbott. Thank you for coming. And I want to welcome Lieutenant Governor Hochul and thank her and the governor for bringing us together today to send a clear message to Washington. From trying to roll back the progress we have made expanding access to affordable health care to advancing crippling cuts to our hospitals, folks in Washington are leading us in the wrong direction. These are not distant problems. They threaten to take away health care coverage from many of our children whose parents are represented here today, leaving them more vulnerable and putting them at risk. Fortunately, in New York, we have champions for all New Yorkers who are standing up to these policies and protecting our health system and New Yorkers. So we are grateful to the governor and lieutenant governor outspoken leadership on this issue and look forward to continue to work together with both of them, our colleagues, and our congressional delegation to protect New Yorkers. Please join me now in welcoming Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul.
Good morning. Kathy, it's a pleasure to be with you once again. I've spent more time in Western New York with you than I have my husband lately. So we were just at a spectacular event not long ago to celebrate women of distinction and to hear their stories. It was such an inspiration for me that I want to thank you for including me in that wonderful evening. And thank you for the incredible work you do here in places like this. I've been to many of your facilities, but when you think about why we do what we do, you come to a school like this, you look in the faces of the children, and you know that answer. We do it for them. And that is why I'm so proud to launch this journey across the state on behalf of Governor Cuomo, along with my colleague in government, our great commissioner, Howard Zucker, Commissioner of Health. But we're going to go out there and tell the story, loud and clear, of what the impacts of cuts in Washington will do, not to us, we're the adults, but to the most vulnerable and to our children. Ladies and gentlemen, our state is under attack. I'm not talking about from Mother Nature. We saw enough of that this year. We're not under attack from some foreign entity. We are literally under attack from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., because what they've been proposing will have more devastating cuts on our state than in any state in the nation. In fact, if you just go through a brief history and think about what's been going on, well, let's say since January. Most recently, the Senate plans to repeal the Affordable Care Act would have cost our state between $40 and $60 billion by the year 2026. That would have punished the states like New York that expanded Medicaid and thrown 2.7 million of our citizens off the insurance rolls. That's just one thing. They also propose serious cuts to our reimbursements to healthcare providers who cover the cost of the uninsured over the next 18 months. That would have cost us $1.1 billion and $2.6 billion over the next 18 months. Again, this hits New York State harder than any state, having us absorb 16% of all the federal cuts in the nation. Simply not fair. But to add insult to injury, the latest tax reform plan calls for the elimination of the state and local tax deduction, which would cost 3.3 million New Yorkers $17.5 billion. Is anybody keeping track of the math here? You got a calculator? How much this is a hit for New York State? And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, now they're going after our children. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't need to tell you, but that is a disgrace. It's simply a disgrace. Last month, Congress refused to authorize the Children's Health Insurance Program, CHIP as it's known, which provides essential health services to our children. Not just a few children, 350,000 children in our own state, 17,300 in Western New York, 3,400 in Niagara County alone. Those are our kids. This program, which you'll hear more about from our Commissioner of Health, covers preventative care. It covers early screening. It covers immunizations, checkups, dental and vision care. And this is a safety gap for families who don't make the threshold to receive Medicaid, but certainly aren't wealthy enough to fork over the costs of these expensive services. This targets families who earn up to 100% of the poverty level, or roughly $82,000 for a family of three. Now, what this does is it penalizes hard-working families, working one, sometimes two jobs, where there's not health insurance provided by the employer. Now, we want them to work. This is great. But why would we sock it to them and remove a program that allows them to have the peace of mind to take their babies and their kids to the doctors when they're sick or for essential checkups to make sure they don't get sick? And if you just want to look at the numbers, preventative care, whether it's dental, medical, vision, that all can prevent more expensive health care costs in the future. So look at it that way. If you don't have a heart for our kids, then think about the savings of making sure we nip these health problems in the bud before they become a crisis. So instead of helping these families who are just trying to do their job and look out for their kids, this program would just say, you're on your own. We're not there to give you that helping hand. So while the parents are doing their jobs, it's up to us to do our job, and that is to fight for them. And that is what Governor Cuomo and I are doing, fanning out all over the state in the next few days to send this message loud and clear. Because we cannot leave these families without a lifeline, this essential safety net. Because with this program, you think about kids in a school, why do a lot of them struggle? They simply can't even see the board in front of them. They need that vision test. They need to get access to glasses. That can be a game changer for someone that you thought was just struggling. A child can go to a dentist to get their teeth taken care of, and we know that dental care is a cornerstone for good health. And certainly a family of a sick child should not have to do the equation, do we go to the doctor or help make the next rent payment? That would be cruel. And you can't argue with the results. Nationwide, the uninsured rate for children 18 and younger has fallen from 15% to 4.8%. That's incredible. And in 1996, in the state of New York, we had 700,000 children without insurance. Today, those numbers have plummeted to 100,000. That is something we should be proud of. But now we have to fight just to keep that in place. And tragically, Congress didn't seem to care. They let this program lapse as if we wouldn't notice. Guess what, Congress? We noticed. We saw what you did. We saw whose side you were on, and it was not with our children. So by undoing this program, Congress has left, as I mentioned, nearly 18,000 children abandoned here in Western New York. But it's more than that. I mean, you thought that was bad. They're also going after other programs. Federally qualified health centers. There's 650 in the state of New York. This is where these families get their assistance from. The vast majority of people underinsured get their coverage from there, and many of the children covered by the CHIP program as well. These cuts would amount to $138 million for facilities that I can tell you right now cannot afford to take those hits. Every single center in the state would be hit with these cruel cuts. So again, another example. Washington turning their backs on our most vulnerable. Not just that, but decimating our healthcare system and eliminating literally thousands of jobs in these communities, in cities and in rural areas all over the state of New York. So, the governor and I say, just can't happen. Just can't happen. And we say it's imperative that they restore the funding for these two programs. So what do? Well, we do best. We call on the citizens in our communities to join with us. We need you in our fight, because it's not for ourselves, but it's for children and future generations. And we will not turn our backs on them. Standing here right now, the governor and I will not turn our backs on the children of the state of New York. So use every resource at your disposal. If you're good on social media, go for it. Get out there and send messages to your friends. Reach out to your congressional offices. Ask whether or not they stand with our children. And if they do, you thank them. If they don't, they need to be exposed. They need to be exposed. So those questions have to be asked. And I want to say, in conclusion, that the health and well-being of our children depend on it. They are looking to us, we're looking to you, the people of the state of New York, to stand up them and have their backs. You can count on the governor and I. We can't do it alone. Let's make sure Washington hears us all the way from Lockport, New York, loud and clear. Thank you very much. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce someone I've had the honor to work with, someone who has been so dedicated to ensuring the health, safety, and well-being of the people of our state of New York. And I want to tell you, we worked very closely together in combating the issue of heroin and opioid addiction. And there is not another person you'd want in the foxhole with you than our great commissioner, Dr. Howard Zucker, because he cares deeply about the people of our state. Dr. Zucker.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, and thank you, Kathy, for inviting me here today. As your health commissioner, I am appalled, totally appalled, that health care for more than 350,000 New York children hangs in the balance because Washington is putting dollar signs before vital signs. When Governor Mario Cuomo created the Child Health Plus insurance program in 1990, he wasn't focused on the millions of dollars saved New York State would save each year in health care costs. He was advocating passionately for the thousands of children, now hundreds of thousands of children, whose families were just out of the reach of providing them with the quality health care that would give them the best start in life. New York State can be proud of its declining rates of uninsured children, and I believe Governor Mario Cuomo would be tremendously proud of it too. As the number of uninsured children continues to decline, all lawmakers should feel gratified that they're making a real difference with programs like Child Health Plus, programs that level the playing field for New York's children, regardless of their family's income. Child Health Plus provides New York working families with peace of mind that comes from knowing that children get the help when they need it. Whether it's seeing a doctor when they're sick, receiving life-saving immunizations that are necessary in order to attend school here in New York, or identifying and resolving early types of vision or hearing problems that clearly make learning harder for these children. It is so much more than just a federally funded program to be battered about by lawmakers. For hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers, of New York's children, it is difference between success and falling behind. As the Lieutenant Governor mentioned, funding cuts to New York's federally qualified health centers are also at stake. 2 million New Yorkers rely on 650 health care centers statewide for preventive care services that protect them from the more costly health problems in the future. But if these centers are forced to cut back on the staff, to cut back on services, or even to close their doors, as many may have to do, it is already the vulnerable neighborhoods across New York State that will suffer. How can we as a country bemoan the state of health care today in one breath and then talk about ripping apart the very safety net programs that catch those who need them the most with the next? It doesn't make good health sense, It doesn't make sense at all, and it will have lasting consequences for years to come. New York continues to make great strides in ensuring that its nearly 20 million residents receive the quality health care that they need to lead productive lives. When I came in here, Kathy introduced me to Vanessa. Vanessa has 5 children under the age of 12, and the CHIP program, the Children's Health Insurance Program, truly is life-saving to her and her family. And I really wish people in Washington could see Vanessa's eyes and her children's eyes, if I had an opportunity to see them, but to see their eyes as well, to know what you're doing and how you're hurting them. So we urge Washington, do not jeopardize our efforts. Do not set New York back decades, and do not endanger the lives unnecessarily of so many people in this state. And we're here to fight and to make this right. And as the Lieutenant Governor said, reach out to everyone and have your words heard to all the people in Washington. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate having you here and being attentive to this message. It's so important for the city of Lockport. And thank you to the Lieutenant Governor and the Commissioner for coming to Lockport today. I know you'll take all the words to heart, and we'll work on this. Thanks again. Have a beautiful day.